Okay guys, so I got my Delrin in and just whipped out some bushings on the lathe this morning. Pretty simple. This stuff is super easy to machine. Machine's really nice. I'll show you what I got. So here is our bar. There's our bushings I just machined. You know, very simple, just a step in them. Now these are getting cut in half. These got to be 2-piece, so we won't be able to get them on if we don't. But for right now, nice snug fit on there. Then these go and these fit in these saddles. So, you know, then the bar goes through and that's what they're riding. But anyway, I screwed up. You know, I did exactly the thing I told you guys to keep up with and make sure you keep checking. Measurements. I don't know how I did it. I try to make sure I measure as I go, and I welded this upright in and it's off. It's off a 1/4 inch, and that's a lot. I don't know how I did it. I don't know what I did, but apparently I didn't do exactly what I've been telling you to do, which is measure before you weld, and I went and did it anyway. So learn from your mistakes, but you know, that's part of building hot rods. You know, when you do this stuff, you're going to make mistakes. That's why we have grinders, cut off wheels, and welders. You know, we can fix any of this. It's all steel. It all welds back together. It grinds down. Whatever we got to do. You know, this is going to happen. You know, I hate doing stuff twice, but you got to know what's going to happen when you're doing something like this. So anyway, I'm going to show you where I messed up. So right here on this section here, I just started remeasuring after I had my sway bar stuff sitting there kind of mocking up, and I started measuring things, and I noticed the sway bar was a little off, which I thought it was just these, because these were just tacked in. I never squared these up or anything before we put them in. I literally set them in there, tacked them in. So I thought, okay, that's where I'm off. But come to find out, when I started welding, or started measuring from here to the axle, and from down here to the back of the frame, and then down here to the front of the frame, I was off. And I was trying to figure out where. So once I finally measured everything, I realized that this one here, for some reason, I ended up getting this one off a 1/4 inch back. It's just, I don't know how. I mean, like I said, I've measured it and measured it and measured it and measured it, but I still got it off. So this is why we keep measuring. You know, had I not gone back through and just double checked again, I wouldn't have caught this. And then we'd have been putting 4-link bars in, and we'd have put our 4-links in crooked, because that's crooked. Now, once again, our 4-links are all adjustable. We could have adjusted the 1/4 inch out in our 4-link bars, no problem at all. But when you look down at my 4-link bars, and you see a 1/2 inch stick out of thread on one side and 3/4 of an inch stick out of thread on the other side, you're gonna know something's off in my chassis. So, you know, like I said, we don't have to fix this, but we don't want somebody looking down at that and seeing that it's off. And honestly, probably nobody would ever see it because it's hidden, but I know it's there and I don't want to leave it. So to me, that would drive me crazy if I knew that was off that far. You know, a couple thousandths, 1/16 of an inch maybe, but 1/4 inch, that adds up pretty quick. So I'm going to cut this thing all loose, you know, because I can't have that. Unfortunately, I did a full stitch across one side and full stitches down the sides of it, and did a good heavy tack on the back side of that. So going to be a lot of cutting and cleanup on this thing, but it's got to be done. All right, that's my screw up for the day. There'll be plenty more, don't worry. everything's squared back up. Also had to make some different pedestals to hold my rear end, because the pedestals we had in there, I don't know, when I put them in I wasn't thinking, but put them in right in line where we need the 4 links. So we can't get the brackets on if the pedestals are in our way. So squared up the front section, cut it loose, you know, got it all squared up, tacked back in place. It should be good now. Measured everything from the front of the frame, you know, back to our 4-link mount, from the rear of the frame to the 4-link mount, from the front of the frame to the center of the rear end housing, rear of the frame to the center of the rear end housing. Everything is square now. So we're back to where we started, I guess. But anyway, we're going to try to get on these mounts and get on this sway bar mount here and get on these 4-link mounts. We need to get this thing set up, but that's where we're at the moment. You know, this should work pretty good. Here's the new ones we put in out of the way, because our 4 links are basically going to be dead square in line with this frame in this section here. So, you know, the last one we had was right here and it was right in the way. Stupid move on my part, but hey, I make mistakes all the time. It's all right. We'll fix it. And then there's the other one, and so now everything is squared up, lined up, in place where it needs to be. The axle is set up to where the car is at full drop, because we have to make sure we have the, you know, enough room at full drop. So I typically will set my suspension up like this at full drop, and then we will tack it in place. We'll move the rear end housing up and down, and we're going to try to get the 4 links just about level, or a little bit running downhill to the back of the car at ride height. We just got to make sure that's correct. But I did some real quick measurements on that, and I think it's going to be fine. We'll see, but you know, I think it's actually going to be exactly where I want it. I've kind of got them figured out where I want to mount them already, but like I said, we'll tack them in place. I'll run the 4 links through the motions, and we'll make sure it comes out right. And then if we're running with the 4-link bars, you know, just about parallel or a little downhill towards the rear at ride height, that's where we want to be. You know, anywhere in that area is fine. You don't want to have it as, you know, extreme. You don't want to be an extreme angle up or down at ride height, because then your rear end's moving all over the place. You know, it's moving forward, it's moving backwards. Anywhere close to the center line is where you'll get the least amount of rear end movement back and forth with your suspension travel up and down, like when you hit bumps and stuff. So we want to be close to that. I think we're going to be all right though. But anyway, we'll get back on this and keep on trucking. All right, I'm going to show you what we got going on here now. I fixed my mistake. We're all squared up, it's welded in, what have you. Got the sway bar tubes all squared up. The mounts for that are squared up. Everything moves nice and free. It's bolted in now. Just tack welded in, but it's true, it's proper. You know, this moves nice and free. Everything's square straight across it. You know, haven't done anything with these yet. We're not tacking those on yet. We're still in mock-up stages, so those can just float there for right now. Rear end's still all squared up. I've been checking it, double checking it. So I went and got a 3rd member out of the front garage, and probably not the one we're going to use, but we're going to use it for mock-up. So this bar right here, I mentioned before, it could be an issue because I wasn't sure it was high enough. I was trying to stay as low as I could with it, but it's not high enough, so no problem. So that's why I left these tops open. I didn't mess with these tops, didn't do nothing with it. So what we're going to do, instead of running this down here, we're going to move one up to the top. And I have room inside the car. You know, there's plenty of room in the car for me to do it. I was just trying to keep it as low as I could, just so we didn't get a bunch of leverage on top of it. But here's what I did. Just took another piece of that tubing that we've been using for the frame and everything. You know, 1.5 by 3 inch, 1/4 inch wall. Just put some angles on the end of it, because you are going to see this when it's done. if we use this the way it was, I was going to actually throw some angles in here so they look decent, but we're not using this now. So we're going to actually cut this out, but we're going to knock the top off first. These welds off the top, we're going to knock those off first. Get this piece on there, get it tacked in place before we ever cut this one out, because we don't want nothing moving. If we just go and cut this thing out right now, it might move, it might draw, it might move. We don't want that happening. So we're just going to cut this top weld out, set this new piece on, which is going to be here. You know, got the little angle to it, so you know, and then that angle on the end, we're going to cap that later, you know, before we're done with the car, before we send the chassis off to have powder coated. We're going to cap that all in, make it look nice, take it in, you know. But once we get this one, you know, welded up on the top, then we'll pull this middle one out. You know, that way nothing's going to move, everything's supported really good. And I think once we do that, we'll make it. Still going to be really close, because you know, you gotta take in the size of the drive shaft, which I think I have 3-inch drive shaft too. But anyway, at least it'll be close enough that even if we have to notch it like we were going to do this one, we can do that too. But I think it's going to be super close. Right now we're all the way up with the rear end, and you know, this the transmission tail housing will actually be this high in the car. The top of this is center line of the tail shaft sticking out of the tranny. So you know, I mean, there's not much angle. It's got to go from center line here up to that yoke right there, and that'll get us lined up. But you know, because like I said, the frame is laying on the ground. This frame is going to sit on the ground, so you can't have your transmission pan down in the middle. The transmission pan needs to be about even with the top of this frame rail, the bottom of the pan. That way when we sit this thing on the ground, the transmission will stay off the ground roughly 1.5 inches. Keep us from knocking holes in our pan. Same way with the oil pan. You know, we may have to actually make a new oil pan for this thing just so it doesn't hang so low, depending on, you know, which route we're going. I don't know, haven't decided yet, like what engine we're going to run. I don't know. You know, I kind of want to run a flathead. I think the flathead fits these things great. They just look nice, they look cool. But my problem is I want to pull out of a car show, and I want to be able to, you know, slap the throttle a little bit and blow the back tires off. And man, I'm not saying a flathead won't do it, but it takes some work to a flathead to make them that peppy. Like I said, that would be my first choice, or maybe like a nail head, or a you know, an old Chrysler Hemi or something like that. You know what I mean? Just or DeSoto Hemi or something. You know, not a big old 426 Hemi, but you know, can't afford one of those. But those would be my first choices. But unfortunately, those options, you know, in order to get enough power out of them, it's going to cost you a fortune. So I know everybody's going to hate me for it, but we're probably going to go LS on this thing, and we're probably going to do twin turbos on it. But what I'm kicking around the idea, if we go with the LS twins, you know, I think what we're probably going to do, I don't know. I'm really thinking about going carbureted, and maybe do something like a 6-pack on it, so it kind of still has that old school look. You know, maybe a 6-pack, maybe, I mean, dual quads, but I don't know, still looking for a little older than that. So I don't know, maybe we'll do like a Hillborn injection on it or something of that nature, something to make the LS look older. And then I plan on doing like a full engine cover over this thing, so I don't want to see that engine. You know, I'm with you guys. The LS is overdone. I get it, and I know I'm going to get flack for this. But at the end of the day, you can take an LS with some cheap turbos on it, and you know, and make really good horsepower out of it, and still get good fuel economy, and drive it every day, and run 80 mile an hour down the highway because we'll have an overdrive in it. And I can go to AutoZone and find all the parts for it if we break down on the side of the road or something. Those are my reasons for it. Not that it's the coolest engine, because it's not, you know, but it's a good, reliable engine, and it's cheap. You know, I've never paid more than $500 for an LS engine and tranny combo. Never. I buy the trucks for 500 bucks and yank the engines and stuff out and then scrap the trucks, or I'll buy an engine and transmission combo for 500 bucks. I have probably 10 of them laying around. So typically this kind of car I wouldn't do that with. I would do it in a cruiser, something you're going to drive every day, and you know, hot rod power tour or something, you know, I would do it in that. But typically this I wouldn't. But this car, I wanted to be able to just slap the throttle and blow the back tires off. It's just what it's got to do, you know. And you're gonna have a hard time doing that with just a flathead in it. I know they make superchargers for flatheads and everything, but dang, you're gonna be $10,000–$12,000 and making a flathead run really good. And I can throw an LS in this thing and make it run really good for, you know, probably a quarter of that. So I don't know. That's right now. I think that's kind of where we're headed. But like I said, if things change every day, I mean, you know, if I could get enough horsepower out of a flathead, I'd do it. But I don't see it happening. So that's kind of my thinking on the car at the moment. But that's a long ways down the road here. That's probably another couple months down the road before we're ready for that, because we got to get this rear suspension figured out. And you know, I'm making the engine bay big enough that we can fit anything from an LS to a big block Chevy in it. And I have a couple nice big block Chevys with blowers on them, and that'd be cool too. But as chopped as this car is going to be with a blower up in front of your face, you'll never see anything. So it's probably not going to get blower. It's probably going to get turbo, whatever it's doing. But anyway, so I'm going to remove this out of here and put the new one in, and we'll see if we got enough clearance with that for that drive shaft. But see what we got going on here. So we got this upper mount moved up, and we're cleared now. We're in really good shape now. So here's what we got. So this isn't the drive shaft for it. That drive shaft's got 1450s in it. That's for a diesel Model A we're building for a 453 Detroit diesel in it. So I have 1450s in that shaft, but the new shaft will have 1350s in it. Or I'm sorry, those are 1410s, not 1450s. 1410s in that one. But this yoke is actually set up for 1350s. So the new shaft I have to order. I just make my own drive shafts, but I'll order a weld together set. See, this has got a yoke on one end and nothing on this end. And then we buy the sleeves and everything to go in there with whatever front we want on it, a slip yoke or what have you. And then I cut this thing wherever we need it. Make our own drive shafts. They're not balanced, but if it starts to shake or we get a vibration, I'll send it out to get it balanced. But honestly, I've done probably 10 of them and I've not had a vibration issue. Or at least in a hot rod, not enough to bother me. So it's not bad at all. But anyway, as you can see, we're gonna clear by a lot actually. So way better than I even thought. It's just such an angle, steep angle coming down to this that it got away from that crossmember really fast. So that's perfect. And we're even higher up here than we would be with the transmission sitting in there. So we're golden. We're really good. So that'll be perfect. So just tack this in place, and just by raising it to the top made all the difference in the world. So we're set up now. So I promise I'm going to clean this junk pile off when I get this 4-link done. So next day or two. It's getting pretty bad. It's getting hard to work around for sure. So I got a one-track mind. When I get on something, I want to stay on it until it's finished. So anyway, that's where we are. We're in pretty good shape. I think next we'll probably we need to get in some of these 4-link brackets. I gotta get the brackets all cleaned up. There's still no scale on them. So this is some old metal that I bought. It's been quite a while now since I bought this. So anymore, when I order my sheets of steel, I order them pickled in oil. P&O. That's the best way to do it. It's not much difference in price, and you can see my table. So my table is 1/4 inch P&O. So pickled in oil plate. It's already has no mill scale left on it. Nice clean material. And then you see this, all the black mill scale, and that stuff is a bear to get off. So from now on, a little tip: if you want to not mess around with having to grind all that crap off of there, get P&O when you order your steel, and that's how it'll come, nice and bare. There's no mill scale on it. Great stuff. And it really, for the price, it doesn't cost hardly any more. I can't remember exactly what the difference is, but I don't know. I can't think it's any more than $10 or $15 more per sheet. It's not much. Definitely not worth you having to grind all the mill scale off. So from here on out, you know, like I have some sheets already that still have the mill scale on them, so I'm going to use those sheets up. But after those sheets are gone, I won't order anything but P&O. So we're going to I'm going to clean these plates up, and then we're going to start mopping up some 4-link.